I made the mistake of scrolling through Twitter recently, and I found a familiar topic being dug up. I'm kind of glad we moved away from the animation as cinema trend. That phrase slowly lost its meaning over time. And you know what? Megami Bandicoot was kind of right. What started as an innocent call for animation to be recognized as an artistically valuable medium in cinema quickly became overwhelmed by a flood of Twitter haters completely misinterpreting the message, turning it against itself until we circled back right where we started. And that's a shame. So today we ask the question, what the f happened and how do we fix it? It all starts with this guy. It's kind of hard to tell how much of the animation as cinema crowd actually knows or cares about the popularization of the phrase. While not the origin, the internet frenzy all goes back to the 2022 to 23 award season when Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio was in the conversation for major recognition at the Oscars. After becoming one of the most awarded films of the year, Del Toro and Netflix decided to shoot big, setting their sights on a Best Picture nomination. But in the back of their minds, they knew the biggest hurdle wasn't the quality of the film, it was the fact that it's animated. Only 3 animated films have ever been nominated for Best Picture, and it hasn't happened since the 2010 to 11 season, when Toy Story 3 scored a nomination. And why? Because of a decades-long bias against the artistic integrity of animated films. For example, in 1992, when Beauty and the Beast was the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, the backlash was inescapable. In a Hollywood Reporter interview on the event, interviewer Scott Feinberg notes, prior to Oscar night, and even during it, some prominent actors demeaned Beauty and the Beast. For example, Sally Field, who was asked to introduce the film as a Best Picture nominee on Oscar night, did so by noting that there were no actors on screen and cracking, "We members of the Screen Actors Guild hope this doesn't become a trend." There's even speculation that the Best Animated Feature category was created in 2001 to avoid Shrek getting a Best Picture nom, almost as if to create a consolation prize, but there doesn't seem to be a credible source to back this up. Still, this is all to say that Pinocchio would have to fight against the animation bias if it wanted to score big on Oscar nomination morning. So, when given the chance to plead his case to the Academy via his Golden Globes acceptance speech for Best Animated Motion Picture, Del Toro made his stance clear.
Because animation is cinema. Animation is not a genre for kids, it's a medium.
13 days later, it was announced that Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio received 1 Oscar nomination. It was for Best Animated Feature. No animated films received any nominations in any other category. This only fanned the flames behind del Toro's point, those 3 words now flooding the internet. Animation is cinema. So, here we are, a passionate portion of the filmmaking community standing up for their art and asking for it to be respected. How could you possibly argue with that? Oh God. Twitter. So, sometime after an innocent call for fair artistic recognition, the internet decided that what animation as cinema was really about wasn't animation as a medium deserving respect, but whether or not animated films aimed at younger audiences, particularly those made by major studios, deserve respect compared to their quote-unquote more artistically respectable adult animated counterparts. While there are certainly discussions to be had about the artistic license of artists working in a corporate environment, what we've again reverted to is discounting the work of animators and animation studios as people pick apart which animated films, if any, qualify as cinema. Take this tweet from Twitter film enthusiast Remy Dushine. At some point, animation as cinema stopped being about showcasing the variety in the medium and instead became about adults who want to watch kids' movies without being laughed at by people telling them to grow up. While they hit the nail on the head by acknowledging how the conversation around the phrase has shifted, they've done so by making the conversation about how films for younger audiences shouldn't count. I agree that more variety should be presented, but not at the expense of excluding certain types of animated films. That's how we get back to square one, where animation as a whole is being relegated to kids' movies that don't deserve to be respected. The flip side is actually a little harder to find than many would have you believe. There are many tweets and reports and memes that an event like The Boy and the Heron winning an Oscar over Spider-Verse or the unnominated Super Mario Bros. Movie would cause this uproar. Animation is cinema users screaming because a more adult, PG-13, 2D animated, not quite populist film won over the family-friendly favorites. In reality, though, I struggled to find any evidence that this actually happened. The most valid observations on the other side of this discourse that I could find was in this tweet from 104th Commander Hansen. But it's difficult to prove a lack of recognition for a film without doing a proper survey. And it doesn't help the argument that the film supposedly being ignored did, again, end up winning an Oscar. Maybe this tells us this is a one-sided war against kids who wouldn't know much better, but for the sake of argument, let's say there is a portion of the audience who does actually feel like films like The Boy and the Heron are deserving of less respect. To such a person, I'd say respecting animation has to go both ways, and we shouldn't be weaponizing that against itself. So, let's take a closer look at two popular examples from both sides of this supposed discourse. On one side, we have the Mario movie. On the other, we have Akira. One is an American mega blockbuster with 3D CG animation from a major studio targeting younger audiences. The other is an older animated masterwork from Japan that's more interested in social reflection than getting kids to buy merchandise. I'm not asking you to say these films share the same level of quality. I'm not asking you to say the same level of artistic motivation was put behind them. It's not hard to see which one was created as art and which one was created as a product. But what I am asking you to do is to respect the work put into both of these films by people who are artists, people who spent tireless, underpaid days and nights crafting the worlds of these films and ensuring that people would like what they see on screen. These are films with very different aims and very different audiences. But when we say that one is more cinema than the other, we create an environment where the work of animators isn't being respected, and where other animated films, and then animation as a whole, will take the pitfall. If, for example, you say Mario doesn't count, but Akira does, because Akira is a more adult and thoughtful film, while Mario is a corporate product for children, even if your reasoning has a degree of merit, you're selectively picking what qualities a film has to qualify as cinema. If we take the qualities corporate product for children, or 3D CG animation, or aimed at a younger demographic, and deem these qualities as signifiers that a film cannot be considered cinema, look what you displace. Shrek, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Up, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Monsters, Inc., How to Train Your Dragon, Moana, Nimona, Mitchells vs. the Machines, The Lego Movie, loosen the parameters a bit, and we've got Beauty and the Beast. Sound familiar? Coraline, The Lion King, Nightmare Before Christmas, Prince of Egypt, and the list goes on and on and on. And this is how we end up in a situation where animation isn't respected. None of it. None of these films in a long list that deserves recognition. And again, let's acknowledge the inverse. Maybe you like more popcorn flick type movies and think Mario deserves more respect and deserves the title of cinema more than Akira. Now we're discounting the artistic integrity of 2D animation, international animation, independent animation, really anything that fits outside of the populist box in any notable way. When you pick and choose the qualities of what makes an animated film cinema, none of it will be cinema in the eyes of the Academy, in the eyes of the filmmaking community, in the eyes of the public, and so on. In other words, this is how animation as cinema went from being a call for respect to becoming a sword being wielded by warring factions that are collectively destroying animation's chances of being treated as an artistic equal. Everyone missed the point entirely, and now we all lose. Happy? So, what do we do now? Well, if we ever want to actually win the animation as cinema war, we need to stop demeaning certain types of films as less than. Mass appeal should not equal artistic worthlessness. Same goes for niche appeal. We need to give every film, every type of film, a fair shot. Let's respect the work being done for various audiences and age groups across the animation sector. No more degrading. Then, maybe, we can all finally agree on what should have been a no-brainer from the get-go. Animation is cinema, and there's nothing to really debate about that. I thought it would be nice to end this video by highlighting some of the upcoming animated films to keep on your radar later this year. Here's a small selection of what I'm looking forward to. The Wild Robot from DreamWorks Animations looks like a promising new project from the sometimes hit-or-miss studio. The art is gorgeous, and the story about a robot adapting to natural surroundings and befriending wildlife seems promising. The trailer definitely put this one on my radar. The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim seems like a fascinating direction to take the franchise. I didn't expect the next major theatrical Lord of the Rings film to be animated, but I'm excited by the choice and curious to see what's in store. Transformers 1 catches my eye for similar reasons. Genndy Tartakovsky's Fixed, about a dog who discovers he's about to be neutered, is still floating around waiting for a release date, but seems like an interesting premise. And Mars Express, which G-Kids acquired after a festival run last year, makes its way to cinemas on May 3rd. I've had my eyes on this animated sci-fi mystery since it premiered at Cannes last year, so I'm excited to see it soon. Of course, there will inevitably be independent and international films that slip through the cracks this early in the year until they start popping up at festivals. Shout out to Ghost Cat and the Hyperboreans, which were both just programmed at this year's Cannes Film Festival. So, this is just a small look at what's to come. Plenty more surprises in store. So this is my first time doing this and making a video. This is the start of the channel and there will be more to come. But given that this is, again, my first time, go easy on me and let me know if you like it. If you didn't like it, constructive feedback is very helpful, so just don't be mean about it. And yeah, I would really appreciate liking, subscribing, whatever. It feels embarrassing saying that, but I'll get used to it. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'm gonna shut up now.